over something the person has done. Tactics that are often used are to spread rumors/gossip, make unkind comments, or sabotage a relationship or social status a specific girl has, all with one end goal in mind: to climb the social ladder. Since the tactics are often passive-aggressive, this tends to take a toll on the victim. But this behavior doesn't stop in school. This follows into the workplace. But in the workplace, this would be called the queen bee syndrome. In an article I read called "Queen Bees Hinder in the Workplace," Cecilia Hurley conducted a survey focusing on women in the workplace. The survey showed that approximately 70% have been the victim of workplace bullying or have been undermined by a female boss. Along with that 70% who have endured the sting of the queen bee, 33% have been on the receiving end of women on the same level or below being unhelpful, holding them back, or undermining them. The queen bee's main goal is to bring others down to protect her status and power. In a workplace dominated with men, women are less likely to help each other out. It's because of limited resources. The same tactics as kids use, the adults use too, just more sneakier. So let me bring up, have you ever been brought down by another girl with her social group? Have you ever been talked badly about? Had rumors been spread about you? Had you had your reputation changed because of someone else's unkind words? Female-on-female relational aggression is just another word for toxic femininity. Although I was being blunt with this, I'm not trying to get away from the fact that toxic masculinity is not happening. But I'm also trying to bring up that each side should be thoroughly examined. As a feminist, I think that we should become one instead of bringing each other down. The more united we are, the stronger we will be and get the change we need faster. Thank you.
When I was, how do I, okay, I'll just hold her. I'll just hold her. Okay. When I was young, and I wanted a toy or something to play with, the first thing, like many other adolescents I'd come to think of, was Toys R Us. And it makes sense when you look at its locations. It's in every major population center, save Wyoming, but I haven't found any evidence that anyone lives in Wyoming. Toys R Us was the epitome of what many major corporations wanted to be at the time. It was ubiquitous. It was the first thing that you thought of when you wanted its product. And it got away with paying its workers very little and not offering many benefits. In 1996, Toys R Us attempted to open a location in Sweden. However, they made a grave error. They attempted to undermine a force of biblical proportions, the Swedish collective agreements. They refused to sign the collective agreements that the workers' union of that sector wanted them to sign because of they wanted to save money on not giving the benefits to its Swedish workers. And for 3 months, Toys R Us's world collapsed in Sweden, as banks refused to process their financial transactions because the financial sector unions refused to give in. warehouses refused to process their inventory as the Swedish blue and white collar workers refused to cooperate with them. And in the end, they capitulated. They signed their collective agreements. Oh, sorry. In the 1950s, when the American middle class was the envy of the world, more than a third of Americans working were in a labor union. Today, it's around 10%. In Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, more than 2/3 are in a union. And in France and Austria, while there's less of an attendance for unions, around 98% are protected under collective agreements. The fall of the labor union in the US can be accounted for at least a third of the growing financial inequality. In the United States, there's a cultural stigma against it. And it thrives off of the notion that it is the fault of the individual. It's the fault of the individual is a collection of their individual achievements and work ethic, and it is their fault if they don't get that promotion or raise, or if they're treated badly by their bosses, because it's their work ethic that's putting them on that line. And one can the many politicians that fight against the labor union. However, this is because just like all those workers in Sweden fighting against Toys R Us so that they can be treated like people and not disposable objects, and just like the proletariat that keeps a society running, they work. Thank you.
What exactly does it feel like to fall in love? Is it the uncontrollable butterflies that emerge at the pit of your stomach when you are with this certain someone? Or is it the simple yet undeniable joy you get from being able to understand each other? For me, it is when I glance at him. Without intention, our eyes meet from across the room, and suddenly it feels as if time stops. A smile slowly appears on his lips, and I can't help but do the same, because I know we both share the same feelings for one another. For me, it is within these moments that I find myself, as people say, in love. For others, it can happen anywhere, at any time. Between intertwined fingers and late-night conversations, we are caught in trances of adoration and satisfaction, where everything is nice and light, new and exciting. But it is only the beginning. Falling in love is the easy part. Weaved within the small moments lies a great love, the kind that leaves one breathless and euphoric. It is an action, a concept, and a feeling, yet it continues to be out of our control. According to Harvard Medical School, when we fall in love, chemicals associated with the reward circuit floods our brain, producing a variety of physical and emotional responses. racing hearts, sweaty palms, flushed cheeks, feelings of passion and anxiety. Some of us in this very room may experience the consistent falling, the reoccurring fireworks and butterflies, while others may be heading towards an unknown. On one hand, there might be disagreements, trust issues, bad communication. You might begin to question yourself. Am I overthinking? What if it doesn't work out? What if this person isn't the one? Then time ticks and passes along, and before you even realize it, the time that could have been spent on finding a solution to the problem was spent overthinking and pondering on what could have been. Among the fireworks and butterflies lies good communication, trust, effort, and respect. Whether it is long distance, career goals, or personal circumstances that may arise, a healthy and growing relationship is one that is worth fighting for. In no way at all does that mean that there are no disagreements. There are. As simple as it sounds, the main goal should be to try to fix things, because that's what you do when you love someone. It is a matter of acknowledging both the problem at hand and the connection that you and this other person share. Whether you are together or apart, value that person. Give your 50% of effort into the relationship, because in the end, you will realize that it was worthwhile. So fall in love is to be vulnerable, selfless, passionate. If they are the right person, you shouldn't have to question your feelings for them. You stay with them because you know it is real. You stay with them because you know that the connection that you have with this person is wholesome and sincere, and you are more than willing to learn and grow together. Falling in love is the easy and uncontrollable part. But everything else after that, that is up to you. Thank you.
I'm kind of sick, so just don't mind my voice. Okay, hi guys. So I've been driving a stick shift for about 3 years now, and that's when I started driving. And, on the occasion, I drove an automatic as well, but it wasn't as fun when I learned to drive to stick shift. I only know a handful of people that drive a manual. We are definitely a rare breed of drivers. It's not all bad, though. It's kind of nice being only the select few that can drive a manual. So why are stick shift drivers so rare these days? Well, one reason is that most cars are automatic or have dual clutch shifters on the side of the steering wheel. Another reason is that automatics are much easier to drive. It's practically brainless at this point. There's so much new technology in our cars nowadays, such as self-park and backup cameras. So, on the on the right are dual clutch shifters, and then on the left is just an automatic car. Um, okay. New drivers rely on that technology instead of their own instincts. And I'm not saying that new technology in cars are all bad. It's just that it's making new drivers nowadays more lazy. Most manufacturers, such as Audi, don't find the need to make manuals anymore, especially in the US, because they're not as popular and they don't sell very well in today's markets. Unless your brand is made up of sports cars, then you are obligated to make a manual version. So I read an article by the New York Times about a man who had become so reliant on today's new technology in cars. He had realized that he was never paying attention on the road. He let his car do all the work. In the past, this man owned a manual car, and he was an excellent driver. He was very vigilant and more attentive on the road. Although his father believed that driving a manual was actually more distracting, it's actually the complete opposite. Studies have shown that manual drivers resulted in being much safer and more attentive than automatic drivers. Manual cars are also cheaper in price versus an automatic car. They're about $8,000 to $12,000 cheaper, according to notes in Consumer Reports. In conclusion, America's car market is still veering away from the classic manual cars by making only automatics. The stick-shift car hasn't died in America just yet. Car enthusiasts like myself around the nation are scouring around to find themselves a manual to drive or learn on. Manual cars are more practical and much more reliable. I think the rest of the world can agree with me when I say we should bring back the manuals in America. Thank you.
What? Hello. My. Aw. Don't make me cry up here. Okay. Okay. So my TED Talk is on the truth about lying. Let me give you like a little scenario before I start my TED Talk. So let's say for your birthday, your aunt knits you a sweater that's well hideous. You tell her one, I'd go out in an army blanket before that. Two, it looks better on a peacock. Or three, it's really beautiful. I needed a sweater. Which one would you pick? Three? Well, if you choose the third response, you're a liar. Don't feel bad, however. If truth be told, most of us lie to some degree, especially when faced with an alternative like hurting the feelings of your poor, good-hearted aunt. Some of us, however, lie so often that we don't realize it. That's when it becomes the sort of problem that may require professional help. Many of us don't want to hear the awful truth every time. Say someone asks you how they look. They probably want to hear that they look good. If they don't look good, we tell them the truth, we create conflict, and we have to deal with the results. If it's someone you barely know, you may choose not to risk confrontation. The problem arises when people rationalize that non-white lies are acceptable and necessary. Getting caught in a lie often destroys relationships and friendships. You're living a lie and waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is psychologically unhealthy. Sorry. There are many considerations that come into play when deciding whether honesty is the best policy. Did you know more than 80% of women admit to occasionally telling lies, and 75% admit to lying to loved ones about money in particular? The tendency to tell tales is a very natural human trait, explains David L. Smith, professor of philosophy at University of New England. He said it lets you manipulate the way you want to be seen by others. The main reason people lie so often is low self-esteem. They want to impress people, please them, and tell someone what they think they want to hear. For example, insecure teenagers might lie to gain social acceptance. Here, parents should emphasize to their children consequences of lying. Here are maybe a few questions to ask yourself when thinking about lying. Would anyone be harmed if I withhold a bit of the truth? Can someone change and grow from my honest feedback, or am I being unnecessarily blunt by giving an honest opinion that is hurtful? How would it feel if someone withheld the truth from me under the same circumstances?
Hi, I'm Xavier Marner, and this is my TED Talk. So when we were all young, we used to beatbox. And that was my TED Talk. I don't have anything to say. Thank you all.
go again?
I'm Xavier Moran, this is my TED Talk. Alright, so when we were all children, we used to all beatbox. So, how many here watched Endgame? Raise your hand. Do you remember when Thanos snapped? The second time. Iron Man kisses Captain America in the new Endgame movie. And Captain America shows his ass. Miss Senate got fired. So, we all know that Minecraft is a better game than Terraria. Minecraft has blocks, Terraria has blocks. But Minecraft blocks have more sides. This one goes out to my friend Maxwell. Yeah. All right, thank you. That was my TED Talk. Thank you.
Wait, how do I change it? Okay. Thank you. Hello. Wait. Wait, how the heck? How do I? All right. So, my topic is colorism in Southeast Asia, self-love in your own skin. How do I? Is the green one? Oh, oh my God. Okay. As you know, I'm Filipino American and I'm pretty dark. Like you can, I'm a brown girl. So growing up, I wasn't really praised beautiful because, like, sorry, brown skin is not really a beauty standard in the Philippines, even though I'm sure most of the Filipinos you know are brown. But like growing up, I was always bullied by my own cousins saying I was adopted because you can tell my mom, she's pretty light for a Filipino. So I was always told, LJ, you're adopted. You're not a part of this family because I'm basically black. And so I was always called Baluga, which is basically meaning Negro in like Tagalog terms. And so, sorry, sensitive topic, guys. So these people are from the Philippines, and they are Airas, or you could say Aira, but they are indigenous people from the Philippines at Central Luzon, and they're obviously known for being Filipino and black. And they were called Beluga, meaning obviously, And so they're mostly interpreted as poor, ugly, and like in the poverty area. And so self-love was always a problem for me because I was always being compared to Airas. But that's not a problem, They're beautiful in their own way. In Southeast Asia, colorism is a major issue. Majority of billboards, ads, and celebrities promote skin whitening products. And Evelyn Nakano Glenn, a professor at University of Berkeley, said in many societies, especially in Asia, skin color was long seen of social class. During 18th and 19th century, light-skinned European colonizer, and might I add, Spaniard colonizers, became a marker of higher social class, while darker Asian Filipino became a market of colonial subjugation. And so dark equals poor, ugly, dirty, while white equals rich, beautiful, and innocent. And this is what cultivated skin whitening to be beautiful, according to the World Health Organization. Skin whitener is a part of their regimen. It ranges to 25% in Mali, 77% in Nigeria, 40% in China, Malaysia, Philippines, and South Korea. And there's more, like it's not even all of them, and it's a lot. And so you can tell from this top left corner, this commercial of a white, I think she's from, Thailand, and they did a controversial racist commercial. And so I can show you guys what it is. Oh,
คุณรู้อะไรมากว่าคริสจะมาถึงตรงนี้ได้การแข่งขันมันสูงมากจะอยู่ได้นานๆไม่ใช่เรื่องง่ายและถ้าคริสหยุดดูแลตัวเองเมื่อไหร่ทุกอย่างที่ทุ่มเทมาความขาวที่ลงทุนไว้ก็หมดไปเด็กใหม่ที่เข้ามาแทนที่อาจทำให้เรากลายเป็นดาวดับแค่ขาวก็ชนะใหม่สโนว์กลูต้าเข้มข้นที่สุดผสมเมล็ดกีวีช่วยให้ไม่กลับมาดำเหมือนกลูต้าทั่วไปข่าวนิรันดร์คริสมั่นใจ So Secret Snows แค่ขาวก็ชนะ
Yeah, so white makes you beautiful, basically. Doesn't that make you mad, right? And the fact that this commercial was controversial, they still didn't take it down. They still kept it up, and yeah. So the skin bleaching industry is only going up from here. Oh, what the heck? Can I forward? Okay. Yeah, there you go. So skin bleaching industry is only going up from here. Global industry of an analyst by 2024, it will reach up to 31.2 billion compared to right now, or about right now, 17.9 billion at 2017. And so that kind of sucks because it's kind of showing that nothing is changing. Like people still think white is beautiful in Southeast Asia. And for me, it's like, it's hard to change someone's perspective in the environment they live in, especially if you're from Southeast Asia or a place that obviously says white is beautiful. And I'm so glad to be living in the Bay Area where people love my skin and like everyone is confident in who they are. And for me, it's like we need to stop beauty standards and have within ourselves like self-love within our identities and the color of our skin because it's who we are. And if you ever doubt your skin color, for me, I think you should do research in your race, your family, your ethnicity, because it just shows history behind who you are. And just have self-love within your own self. So there's this girl, Asia Jackson, who's Filipino and black, who was raised in the Philippines and went through the same thing as me. And she started a movement called Magandang Morenex, which means beautiful brown skin. And Maganda means beautiful, Morena means brown skin. And so I want to be a part of this movement and say, I'm Maganda Morenex. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Wait, is this thing on?
Yeah, you like soap?
Wait, is this on? Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, shh. Okay, okay, yeah, why being vegan sucks. So, vegans, they're everywhere, from Whole Foods to Food Max. Veganism, by definition, means a person who does not eat or use animal products. Now, I'm vegan, so a lot of what I hear is when I go out and someone wants me to try something, and I go, oh, I'm sorry, that's not vegan, they're just like, oh, well, that sucks. And I'm like, yeah. So I've broken it down into 4 bullet points as to why being vegan sucks. First bullet point. Water conservation. To produce 1 pound of meat, it takes roughly 2,000 gallons of water, while to produce 1 pound of wheat, it only takes about 25 gallons of water. Moving on. Deforestation due to livestock. Deforestation is the permanent destruction of forests in order to make land available for other uses. Livestock ranching is the second biggest cause for deforestation. And deforestation is the second leading cause of global warming. Now, deforestation has a huge impact on our planet. Things such as loss of species, both plants and animals, has a huge impact on our ecosystems. To put things into perspective, we've roughly lost the size of Panama each year since 1997 due to deforestation, which in cause accelerates climate change. Now, speaking of climate change, pollution. As we know, raising livestock uses up a lot of energy and a lot of land. And we've all heard of greenhouse gases. Now, what a lot of people may have heard or not heard is that 51% of our annual worldwide greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock ranching. Now, the last bullet point, a lot of people may not know, and honestly, I didn't know either until researching into this topic a bit more. And it's that being vegan or skipping meat every once in a while actually helps contribute to, and not ending, like it's not the sole, like one answer, but it helps in ending world hunger. Now, because here, 70% of the grain we produce is to feed livestock, and 83% of farmland is set aside for raising animals. If we were to reduce the amount of livestock and use that farmland to grow grains for us to eat, there would be more food to go around. Because we don't need that much land for plants versus for animals, since they're living beings, they need more land. So we would help reduce the amount of land and provide more food. A Cornell Chronicle stated that the US could be feeding 800 million people with the grain that livestock eat. So that's just 4 out of so many other environmental benefits of going vegan or skipping meat, the meat option or the dairy option or eggs every once in a while. Because as we all know, our dollar is our voice, our money is our voice. So with all the money that we put out there, if we choose to put that money towards the vegan option or just non-meat option every once in a while, we contribute at least that 1% towards reducing the amount of land used to raise animals. And apart from health benefits, there are so many, apart from environmental benefits, there are so many health benefits of skipping meat or going vegan. Things such as improving your kidney functions or reducing the risk of heart disease. And not to mention, you just be saving a lot of animals. And I know for some people that doesn't mean anything, but for some people it might. And I'm not just talking about land animals, I'm talking about marine animals as well. Things like big net fishing takes a huge toll on our oceans and its ecosystems. So maybe, just maybe, being vegan doesn't suck. Thank you.
I'll just not use the microphone. All right, go. No, I only have 2 hands, so I can't. I want to walk around. Yeah, or you can just use the stand. That's fine. Okay. How do you become great? I've always wanted to do. Such as, how do professional athletes become so good at their sport? How do writers write such good books? Or how do how do Hollywood actors make it big? People always say just follow your dreams, but I feel like it's not that simple. Like your dreams might be a little out of reach, to be honest. My 7th grade English teacher, Miss Casanova, like some of you may have had, she gave a good example of this. So she showed us Monsters University, and it showed that Mike, he was studying his ass off, like trying to get good grades and stuff, but in reality, he was just like not good, like his body wouldn't allow him to be a monster. And then Sully, on the other hand, he was the opposite. He didn't study, but he had the natural talent where his body like was fit to be a monster, and his father was like a legend also. So not only must you practice and dedicate yourself to what you want to become good at, but you must also find the thing that is meant for you. And make sure it's something you truly enjoy doing. Like some people go their whole life doing something like a job that pays well or is known, but they don't actually like it. So once you find the thing that you truly enjoy and are fit for, you should ease your way into it. Don't just quit everything right away. This is pretty risky. I once heard a quote from a very successful person that said, "Never have a backup plan." That is like admitting failure. But I don't exactly agree with this. Always have a side job or something that you can make some money off, and then once your dream takes off, then you can quit that side job. All in all, though, you must realize that it's going to be a great sacrifice. Another key thing is you should get lots of help. You won't become an expert right away. Watch videos, read books, or even get one-on-one help. And lastly, you must believe in yourself. So many people just admit defeat right away before something even happens, right? At least give it a try. Like there's a chance it might work. And never give up. Wins take time. You must be patient. Many people don't get it on the first try. Like I know many people that take their whole life to find what they're good at. So yeah, that's it.
What? Why is everything? What? Okay. All right. So. Shut up. I didn't realize we were allowed to take notes up here, so I tried to memorize it, and it didn't really go well. So I'll probably stutter a lot. Okay. Shut up. All right. So I already forgot. Shit. Shut. Wait. Okay. I forgot what I was supposed to say. Okay. Oh yeah, that's true. So the ocean is a perfect place to take a beautiful picture of the sun reflecting right off the waves, or it could be a perfect place to watch as the sun sets just over the horizon. But it's also a beautiful place to, the ocean is a beautiful place for the animals too, because they live, like obviously they live there. And I so forgot. So yeah, here's more sun. There's a lot of things you can do in the ocean. You can go swimming, snorkeling, scuba diving, boogie boarding. There's a lot of things. Yeah, animals. Okay, so this next story this is why I kind of made this presentation. No, it's not that bad. You can't really see what's happening because when I was recording, I was just kind of worried about not dying. So it's really shaky. And also, fucking tide's getting high. Unmute it? Are you sure? Okay. We're trying not to get wet at all. Wait, maybe like one more bend with the water. Okay, so in this video, me and my brother are running to go see a waterfall, and every time the waves come up, they hit the rocks, and so when the water retreats or recedes, we run around to the next safe spot. So we kept on doing that until we got to this one little cove. It was basically like we couldn't go backwards and we couldn't go up. We were just like stuck in this little spot. So the water receded and we tried to run, but we realized we couldn't make it. So we stayed inside the cove, and then we both looked over and we see like a 6-foot wave, like 5 feet away from us. And then we kind of knew that so we basically kind of knew we were screwed, and the water just completely went over the top of both of us and started dragging me out, and then my brother grabbed my backpack as I was getting dragged away and pulled me back. And then, yeah. It's towards the end. You can just see like the water go over, and then my phone cuts off because it got wet. Are you sure? Because my phone still works. It just got, oh, you're fucking wet. That's a bitch. How big for you? It's right here. And then right there, I was getting dragged out, and then my brother grabbed me. On his video, you can see, I don't have his video, but on his video, you can see him like grabbing me. Like he has it on me, and you see his arm like pull me in. It's kind of cool. There's still more. Okay, so the ocean is also very dangerous because of the animals. The ocean kills about 10 people a day, according to a study. More. Okay, but still, the ocean's scary. So, about a couple hundred people die to the animals in the ocean. That can include jellyfish, sharks, eels, sea snakes, stuff like that. There's a sea snake. The ocean is more than 80% undiscovered, and it covers more than 71% of the surface area. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't even know can exist underneath the ocean. Even though the ocean is a very dangerous place, as long as you're careful and you know what you're doing, it can still be that beautiful place it seems to be. All right, that's my tip.
Hello. What? Okay. Let me just pull up my script real quick. What's up? So, yes. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you guys today about something I know that most of you may like, and that's pizza. So, I know what you're thinking. Haha, here comes Kevin with another one of his funnies. But I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. This is a topic that I've been thinking about for a while and very intensely. So, oh, where's the clicker? Oh, yeah. So, okay. Thank you. Okay. So, pizza, before I talk to you about pizza, before I talk to you about what my a conflict that I have to tell you about pizza is, we need to go back a little bit. So pizza was invented in 1889 by a dude named Raffaele Esposito in Italy. That's a pretty long time especially for a food that is still as popular and accessible as pizza. In fact, the first pizzeria ever in North America was opened in 1905 in New York, and it was called, right there, Lombardi's. Okay? So, pizza has had the opportunity of longevity in society and as a common delicacy, becoming the second most popular fast food in America just behind hamburgers. With such a streamlined exposure and accessibility to most people, pizza is bound to branch off into some weird corners and have shifts in its paths, right? Okay. Oops. When you think of pizza, what comes to your mind? Yes, the dough on the bottom. The dough is the base with the sauce following it on top and cheese sprinkled generously on top of it, maybe even multiple cheeses, and some pepperoni or like a meat to like top it off, right, to add flavor. That, unless you're vegan, yeah. Okay, we get. That's kind of the standard American pizza, right? It's the type of pizza that I personally grew up eating mostly, and that turned out fine, I think. And however, that wasn't enough for you people, was it? We have entered a new age in a pizza dishery. We live in a society where it's no longer one type of pizza to choose from. We need to have the option to have anything and everything on our pizza. I'm talking about like toppings. So, now don't get me wrong. Pizza can still be delicious while also having a lot of variety, like combo pizza or that one pizza with like the 20 kind of meats. However, you have to admit that some of this stuff can get pretty absurd. Okay. So, here are some examples of like crazy pizza that have no reason to exist. So right there is a squid ink pizza made with the real squid ink. That is tequila lobster pizza made with the lobster. That's a gold pizza made of the real gold. And that is a blackberry pizza that has blackberries on it. And that's a cicada pizza that has like little insects on it. So, however, I never said that any of these things sounded like nasty or bad or that you should never try them. I did say absurd. So, take something like pineapple on pizza, or Domino's has this pizza where they replace the sauce with ranch, and people eat them like they advertise it on their website and stuff. So, they eat them regardless of what the ongoing conflict is, and they do sell. So, my argument or my question is, like, what does and doesn't belong on pizza? My argument isn't that any of this stuff is gross, because, like, people eat them. It's the question of, should we be straying this far from the original roots of pizza and just go absolutely off the walls for the type of pizza we have? And what type of toppings and ingredients we normalize, like diversify? Or should we just try to keep it simple and only keep what sounds normal so that we can keep all eating the same base traditional pizza? There's a saying that less is more, and I think it means a lot when it comes to food. Yes. So, especially pizza. There's something really great about being able to say, hey, I'm going to get a pizza, I'm going to order a pizza, and then everyone knows exactly what you're getting. Imagine if someone says, hey, I'm getting pizza, and they order like a crocodile and sawdust pizza. So, yeah. In conclusion, I think nothing in society today has gone really that out of hand. Like, people still eat like normal pizza. You have to go like out of your way, and you have to go like searching for like weird and bizarre pizzas. And okay, shh. People eat that though. Okay. People can and will eat whatever they want, and that is fine. So in true conclusion, you as a human being are able to add whatever bizarre and crazy toppings and ingredients you may wish onto your pizza. Yes, that's it.
Okay. Fast food places exist pretty much to pick your pockets and then get you back to your car in the quickest time possible. The jarring primary colors and uncomfortable seats were never designed to be accommodating. They were designed to pretty much keep you out of the restaurant. And we see this sort of capitalization across America, right? And it makes sense. If you're paying thousands of dollars for a business space, you're going to want to churn out enough money to keep your one-bedroom studio in the city, too. God, what's next? Every square... It's good. Every square foot of land in the Bay Area can cost over $1,000. And that's not even enough land to stand on. It seems like everything is split into things that are owned and the people who own them. But there are some places that aren't like that. There are places that thread a community together, and there are places where everybody owns everything and nobody owns anything. Parks and libraries are part of something called social infrastructure. This is a shared space where people go for socialization and self-betterment. And, you know, it's obvious kind of the immediate gratification of social infrastructure. You know, you get good go-to places, you get free amenities, but the real value is a little bit harder to see. So let's take a look at Chicago. 1995, July 13th, there's this big heat wave. Like so hot you could crack an egg on the pavement and watch it cook on the asphalt. Officially it reads 107 degrees Fahrenheit, but the heat index, which is how hot it actually feels on our bodies, reaches 126 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, Eric Klinenberg, he's a social scientist in 1995, went over to Chicago a few years after to investigate how people reacted to this catastrophe. And he came up with the usual suspects, or I guess usual information first. Wealthier neighborhoods did better and had less mortality rates in Chicago than the neighborhoods with less resources. But some neighborhoods that statistically should not have done as well did significantly better than the rest of the area. And that's because these neighborhoods had robust social infrastructures. They had nice libraries, well-maintained streets, good parks, cafes. So when the catastrophe hit, they knew who was sick, whose door they needed to knock on, and really who was in need of help during the heat wave. So basically, support your public libraries.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? So my TED Talk is about empathy, and that's probably because I've been in theater for roughly 4 years, and it's really been a big impact on me. So, empathy can change the course of our lives. Yes, we do have differences, but empathy can be the one thing that relieves the fact that we are alone in our bodies so we can get a sketch of a different life. Empathy is the ultimate string that molds us together, interwoven with our oddities that is paradoxically inherent. It is essential. It is naturally fundamental. Empathy can change and connect us. It could change the world and make it into an empathy gym for reflecting our own experiences, representing a sense of humanity, deflecting ignorance and fear, deflecting hardships and tears. I just want people to understand that there is more than what you see, rather than what's on the screen or like what's on the street. Because at the end of the day, when you scratch the paint, there's something beautiful underneath. So it gives you a sense of peace, sense of morality, mindfulness, open-mindedness. So I ask empathy. Maybe one of these days, with communication, compassion, can lead to better solutions. Maybe one of these days, there can be a resolution, a sound conclusion, instead of these faulty and inexcusable delusions. So I ask empathy. Please be that missing key to set humanity free, because we can be. Let us be the generation that can see that empathy can set us free. It can lead us to more possibilities, more opportunities, because we could see the world with a different set of these. Thank you.
Is it on?
I'm not going to talk with this because I talk loud enough. Okay. All right, can anyone tell me, can anyone tell me what these cars have in common? Wheels. Right, no, wheels. So yeah, these are all new modeled cars, but their headlights are extremely bright, kind of like this stage. Not really. Okay, anyways, yeah. So I was originally going to do a TED Talk about the environment and a human's impact on nature, but last night I was driving and I realized this has to be a problem that other people see. So, yes, too bright headlights. So as new cars come out, every new car has these LED lights, so you might be thinking, but are they actually getting bright? And they're not. It's just the color. So my car, maybe your older car, has a yellow light, but these ones are white and blue. And they're promoted to be better and to last longer. But actually, when they're exposed to too much daylight, the glass gets like dimmed out. So the light that comes through is even worse for people who are on the inside. And you don't have good as headlights because the sun is on. So why does it matter? I am not the only person who feels like this. 65% of drivers say that they feel like this. And look how many 10 fatal crashes. That's a lot for something that's fixable. But how do we fix it? Adaptive driving beams, which have the same amount of light, but instead they have sensors, so they can sense if something is in front of them and redirect the light. And you're still able to see just as good. That's it.
Hello, everybody. So ever since we've existed, we have questioned why we're here. What purpose do we serve on this huge, dangerous, but beautiful world? Thousands of years ago, it was easy to suggest that we were at the center of everything, and that we were watched over by a higher power, and that we had a reason to be alive, to move on to the afterlife. And while that is still widely believed to this day, while it is still widely believed to this day, with new technological advancements, we've learned that we are not the center of everything as we once knew that we were. We are a speck on a rock that orbits a star that is only one in the billions that create our galaxy. And that our galaxy is only one in the millions and millions that create the universe. And we don't even know if our universe is the only one. We've learned that the amount of time that humans have existed on Earth is just a small moment when compared to the age of the universe. So this timeline shows pretty much like the start of the universe to a couple of million billion years into the future. And what we think that, or how long we think humans have existed is shown by that red dot. I don't know if you can see it. I tried to make it bigger so you can see it. But we don't have a lot of time on this earth, pretty much, is what I'm trying to say. And with the increasing threats of global warming and other natural, like, catastrophes, we might be coming close to the end. But before any of that happens, all of us will one day die, rot, and be forgotten. And that could be it, for all we know. It's a terrifying realization for a lot of people. And for a lot of people, it's induced an overwhelming feeling of dread. And it's known as existential nihilism. So what if we really have no purpose? What if we really aren't nothing in this cosmic void? Would it really be so bad? When we come to the realization that nothing matters, it can really tear us down. But what if we can use it to build ourselves up? Think about it for a second. If nothing matters, then everything bad that happened to you won't matter either. If nothing matters, then If nothing matters, then we get a clean slate which to choose how to live our life. We get to live in this world together, and we get to interact with each other. We get to love. We get to influence. We get to feel things. We get to express those feelings and share them with each other. And we get to explore the infinite amount of beauty in the world and soon probably in space. So yeah, we get to love, we get to influence, to innovate and create, and we get to do what makes us happy. So maybe we weren't given a purpose in life, and maybe in the end nothing really matters. But maybe it's that way so that we can come up with our own purpose. We wanted to know what was out there, so we built a rocket and went up there and checked it out. We went from using rocks to iPhones, and we have time to keep going. So before the sun explodes or we drown ourselves in plastic, we're lucky enough to be a part of the human race. We get to experience all that life has to offer. People choose to devote themselves to art, to working on solutions, and to spreading love. So you can choose what to do with your life. And you can choose to do whatever you want with the life that you're given. So why choose to waste it? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Where's Miss? Is Miss Senate watching? Like,
Yeah,
is-
Senate's here.
He's here. Is he here? Wait.
Hi, Miss Senate. I was joking before.
Where's Miss? Is Miss Senate watching? Like,
Yeah,
is-
Senate's here.
He's here. Is he here? Wait.
Hi, Miss Senate.
Watching?
Heard of greenhouse gases. Now, what a lot of
majority of billboards.
David.
Here.
And I'm
plan to grow.
Hello. You're the right person. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. What you are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Your turn. Wait, so you have to sing the
Greenhouse
second.
gases. Now, what a lot of
Majority
Twinkle,
of
Twinkle, Little
billboards.
Stars, the same as the ABCD song. And Mary Had a Little Lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary
Yeah.
had a.
I'm plan to grow.
Twinkle,
Mary,
twinkle,
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Your turn. Wait, so you have to sing the
Greenhouse
second.
gases. Now,
I don't know. Wait. Kinda. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song. Alright, then Mary had a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a.
plan
Uh.
to grow.
Twinkle,
Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Your turn. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
Gases. Now,
I don't know. Wait. Kinda.
Majority
Twinkle,
of
twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song.
Alright,
then Mary had a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a.
plan
Uh.
to grow.
Twinkle,
Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Your turn. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
I don't know. Wait. Kinda. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song. Alright, then become a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a.
Plan
Uh.
to grow.
Twinkle,
Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
I don't know. Wait. Kinda. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song. Alright, then become a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a. Uh.
Twinkle,
Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
I don't know. Wait. Kinda. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song. Alright, then become a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a. Uh.
Twinkle,
Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little lamb.
what you
Wait.
are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
I don't know. Wait. Kinda. Twinkle, twinkle, little stars, the same as the ABCD song. Alright, then become a little lamb. Twinkle, twinkle, little Mary had a. Mary, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Mary had a little.
what you are? Yeah, sing it, ladies, sing it. Wait, so you have to sing the second.
I don't know. Wait. Kinda.
Yeah. Well, at least I was trying to get to class. I wasn't just waiting around for nothing. Huh? Anyone take a deep breath? Should lights still on? Yeah. Okay.
What's up?
No. No.
Yeah. Well, at least I was trying to get to class. I wasn't just waiting around for nothing. Huh?
I'm not staying here.
Should lights still on?
Just wait till you see my presentation. I'm gonna do like the Beyonce thing, okay, with the wings and shit. Please. I appreciate it. Fine. Hey, so we get no notes, right? You can use notes all the time. I don't know why. Hi, my name is Brianna. Oh, it's gonna be like that video that goes, some of y'all are ugly, but that is okay. Oh my god, I should have done that. Wait, how long? And y'all like, society and black men. Yeah, let me just do it. Yeah, like that, like that. Unattractive. Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Ella, did you dye your hair? Is that just the lighting? No, did you dye your hair or is it the lighting?
Bye.
Penis.
Can I take this off? I was suicidal. People don't expect to hear this from someone like me, someone who seems to be fun, spirited, extroverted, outgoing. We usually expect it from the dark, quiet, ominous ones. It all started in elementary school. I was fat, real chubby little kid. I was also really shy, very sensitive. Still am sometimes. I got bullied a lot for it. It made me an easy target. When I was 11, I was raped by my uncle. Rape gives you a different perspective on life. It gives you a different outlook. I didn't want to live if this is how easily rape worked. Moving forward to middle school, I came out to everyone in the 7th grade as gay. It was a really big step. It was really hard for me, but I knew it was something I wanted to do. The more people know about you, the more they can bully and harass you for. Later that year, I came out to my parents. Being traditional Mexicans, they weren't too fond of the fact. My mother called me young and stupid. My father said he wasn't too happy about it. What hurt most is that my father continued to go and talk behind my back about how terrible it is to have a gay son and how terribly my mother raised me. It was hard. I didn't feel loved or appreciated. I felt alone. I started dieting, starving myself, working out intensely. I did all this to look more attractive. I looked at the world around me. Those who were attractive were slim, were fit, had straight hair. So I started straightening my curls to look like the people around me. Then high school came, and that's a whole new boat of problems. People bullying me because I tried too hard, because I straightened my hair, because I'm ugly, because I'm insecure, and so much more. I even had some guy go around and tell people that we had sex just so he could look cool. And the whole school looked at me sideways for an entire week. My parents' relationship has never been too kind. They would argue a lot. Me being the oldest child, I had to step in to be the middleman. I'd have to separate them, intervene. It was difficult. I had a lot on my plate academically, physically, emotionally, and now I had to fit my parents' problems into mine now. It was really difficult. Growing up, my parents wanted me to be the model child because I am the oldest of 5. I remember my mother sitting next to me when I was in elementary school. She'd hold a pitcher of ice cold water above my head as I would do homework. If I stuttered or took too long on a single homework question, she'd dump it all on me and refill it. It made me work harder, made me be smarter. I did try to become the model child they wanted me to be. Growing up, I did volleyball, leadership, water polo, did community service clubs, learned to play the violin, got several awards, went to Boys State, and so much more. All to impress my parents and get their worship. But all I got was, "You can do better." Going through all of this just made me extremely upset, depressed at times, suicidal. I would cry myself to sleep sometimes, cuddling a kitchen knife in bed, thinking about ending it all. Why didn't I end it all? Why didn't I just let it all go? Mainly it's because I thought to myself, funerals are expensive. It's okay to laugh. In all honesty, that's the main thing that kept me alive. Funerals, on average, $7,000. I was like, damn, I can't die if I can't pay for my own funeral. I'm gonna be more of a disgrace than I already am. So that kept me going through life. But then as I grew older, not until sophomore year, I started investing in self-love. Self-love is different from being narcissistic. It's different from being self-absorbed. It's different from what you see other teens doing nowadays, flaunting themselves. Self-love is the action of doing stuff for you. Self-love is making yourself happy, looking at yourself. I would look at myself in the mirror every day. From sophomore year on, I look at myself in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. Look at that individual right there. He is beautiful. He is amazing. He does great things. Doing so will make your mind think that you are beautiful. Because when stuff gets repeated to you, you start believing it. Kind of like when negative things start getting said to you, you start believing it. Do the same thing, but with positive things to yourself. Don't feel like you have to be in this pit of darkness. Pull yourself out of it. Because in all honesty, you're the only person that's there for you from birth till death. You're there for yourself 24/7 if you want to be. These simple 3 words helped me out. Helped me stop being suicidal. Helped me love myself. A month ago, I broke up with my boyfriend. We were dating for a year and a half. I had a bright future planned with him, family, a lot of other plans, going to college with him. Then we broke up. I was suicidal again. For a little bit. Only for a little bit. I was very depressed. I didn't know where I was in life. I didn't know what I wanted. I felt lost because I've had so many things revolve around him. When in all honesty, I don't need no man. I don't need no man for my future. I started living for myself. I started telling myself these 3 words again. Now, repeat after me. I am beautiful. Thank you.
Stop laughing. Y'all make me hella nervous. I'm nervous as hell. I can only see this front row and everything else in the back is just all blacked out. Nope. I don't know how to turn this. Who knows how to do this? I don't know how to turn this down. I need to put it down. Do not know how to do that. Yeah, thanks. Wow, okay. I want to start off saying I'm pretty shy as hell right now. All right, so I'm going to go into what the hell I'm talking about. Can y'all even hear me? Serena, can you hear me back there, bruh? Can't hear y'all. Okay. Okay, so my topic is about toxic relationship. How like to spot the signs and all that. The first sign you usually see is when they become hella like possessed, like I can't even say the word, but like when they're overbearing kind of. Like they only want you to hang out with them, they only want you to be friends with a lot of people, and they want you they want your attention 24/7. They want you to worry about them, they only want you to care for them. For example, there's this girl, I'm not going to tell her name because she told me not to tell her name, so I'm going to call her Caitlin. She has a boyfriend who's a jailbird. He forces her to just like make her wait for him, and he's been locked up for 2 years already. He's finally out, and as soon as he gets out, he has 2 different baby mamas while he was trying to supposedly be with her. But she still stays because she's like brainwashed that he's the only one for her and all that stuff. Even though all her friends tell her that, oh, he's bad, he's like toxic for her, because if she's not around him, she gets into emotional breakdown, she can't talk, she has to ask him for permission to go anywhere. So if you know somebody that's like in that certain situation, or has like, they have to ask their partner if they have to go somewhere with their friends, and they have to ask them if it's okay if they could go with so-and-so, that's like one of the signs of a toxic relationship. Yeah, that's like the simple sign of one of them. And then the second one is like, it's not really has to be, I don't know, like they just have control of you. Because my experience myself, I have been in a toxic relationship where I didn't really have enough to say. I was even abused in one. So I think it's hard to spot the signs, because it's very like, they don't really like be abusive or anything, but they just know how to sweet talk you. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. I don't even know the rest.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
I can't see. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. So my topic is how depression links with teens and adolescents. Did you know that teen suicide is the third leading cause of death in the U.S.? About 95% of people who die by suicide have a psychological disorder known as depression and anxiety. Has there been a point in your life where you felt hopeless and vulnerable for several weeks, which led you to close out on the world? Depression affects a person throughout the day, guiding feelings and thoughts in a negative direction. About 11% of young people experience depression during their adolescence. As hard as it feels and sounds, it's a normal feeling to have, but people often forget that seeking help is always provided. Withdrawn, irritable, sleepy, these are all symptoms of teen depression. There are 5 signs to look out for when it comes to teen depression: sleep disturbances, safety issues, physical symptoms, social changes, and substance abuse. Depression can occur at any time in life, causing sadness and loss of interest in activities. The list goes on, but to say that depression is a real condition that can intervene with daily life and throughout life. There are many ways to overcome depression. Encourage yourself to join activities, even if it's the last thing on your mind. Another way is to keep yourself occupied. Go hang out with friends or family, keep yourself company. Don't just sit in a room and lay there, because it will trigger your thoughts into wanting to commit suicide. If you are someone who you know is suffering with depression, go talk to someone about it, whether it's a counselor, friend, family member, or mental health professional about it. Also, someone who you know who wants to commit suicide, get help and call the suicide prevention hotline. Get help and don't leave yourself stranded by yourself in a room. Reach out to someone who is trusted. Suicide is a complex issue that we all need to work on together and to prevent death. There's never a reason to give up.
Okay, okay. All right. Wait, where's the clicky? Hold on. Okay, hello. This is too tall for me, sorry. Okay. No, it's okay. It's fine. I'm fine. Okay, thank you. So I'll start. When you think of One Direction, what do you think of? Screaming fangirls, bubblegum pop, that whole pop formula. When I think of One Direction, I think about all of that too. But I also think about how big their musical legacy actually is, and we don't really think about that. How huge the members still are, and how iconic some of their songs remain to be, and the countless historic moments that they've had over their lengthy career. But I'll start from the beginning in case you're not a One Direction fan like me. So, the band came to fruition artificially, as many pop acts often do. The roster of boys, including Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, Liam Payne, Zayn Malik, and Niall Horan, They intended on competing separately on the British X Factor, but a judge thought that the boys would complement each other really well, so he put them all together, and that's how One Direction came to be. In September 2011, the band released their first single, What Makes You Beautiful? Yeah, hey. This song became the most pre-ordered Sony Music single in history. It would later peak at #1 on the British charts. In 2012, the band released What Makes You Beautiful in the US, where it became the highest selling debut for a British act since 1998. Their subsequent debut album made One Direction the first British group in the US to in US chart history to enter at #1 with a debut album. As a One Direction fan from this time, their music was like the best thing I'd ever heard, obviously, because I was like 12 or something. And even listening back to some of their songs, not only from this era of their music, but even later down their career, their music was not bad. But I digress. They moved on from pop and took pointers from 80s rock to create their 2013 album, Midnight Memories. Pretty good album. The boys were starting to mature, and the boys continued to make history. This was the third album of theirs that debuted at #1. Their last two studio albums, For and Made in the AM, proved even more successful, but the band was coming to a head in 2015 after the departure of a band member. As of December 2015, the band has been on indefinite hiatus. To this day, I can still find active fan accounts for them supporting each boy individually. Since then, members have starred in Christopher Nolan films, acquired solo recording contracts, and strangely enough, even started their own golf management company. I don't know why, but they did it. These guys are doing just fine without the band and show no interest in getting back together. But even with all this, the band still remains a major landmark in our musical culture. Today, One Direction is still the most profitable boy band in music history. They evolved as a band and never stuck with the same boring pop formula as many popular bands still do today. They broke records, they received critical acclaim and support from musical powerhouses like Pete Townsend from The Who. I understand people's hesitation to recognize One Direction as true music, but that's what they were. They were a real band who deserved to get taken seriously. If you have to respect their hustle and give credit where credit is due. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Growing up, animation became my beacon of hope and imagination. Movies like The Lion King. Movies like The Lion King made me imagine a world where animals could talk and sing together. And at the end of the film, I would be left feeling inspired and joyful. But some animations made me think deeper at a very young age and made me open my eyes to the reality I live in. One TV show that was able to accomplish this was SpongeBob. During the episode of The Jellyfish Hunter, I learned how animal cruelty was, or more specifically, how it looked like. It showed me the harsh conditions the jellyfish were being exposed to. And I remember pointing at the TV screen and telling my sister, like, why is that jellyfish being juiced like an orange? They're not oranges. The fact that an animation such as SpongeBob can incorporate a heavy topic and still maintain their cartoony aspect is something truly inspiring. That's when I knew the true power of animation. The power to use your imagination and at the same time relating it to the world we live in. Now, what do stories in animation have that reality simply does not allow? The answer is simple: imagination. On a short article that I read by Igor Leilak, he states that animation can subvert reality and can distort it, simplify it, mock it, or idealize it. Ratatouille is just one example that simplifies life and at the same time tells a beautiful story of a rat who, just like a human, has a dream to become a chef. We as the audience can connect with Remy because we understand the hardships he is going through, human or not. Even from a rat's perspective, however, reality still finds a way into this imaginary world and challenges the hope of our character. But as the film goes on, Remy begins to think for himself and starts to open his mind to new ideas when confronting his father.
We're here. Take a good long look, Remy. Now this is what happens when a rat gets a little too comfortable around humans. The world we live in belongs to the enemy. We must live carefully. We look out for our own kind, Remy. When all is said and done, we're all we've got.
No.
What?
No. Dad, I don't believe it. You're telling me that the future can only be more of this?
This is the way things are. You can't change nature.
Change is nature, Dad. The part that we can influence. And it starts when we decide.
Where are you going?
With luck, forward.
We're here.
But the film, this is a very meaningful quote. Because society and humans are constantly changing, and no matter how hard we try to change that fact, there is nothing we could do about it. So instead of fighting it, we must embrace it and with luck, move forward.
Hold up. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I came here on May 24th, 2014. That's almost 5 years from now. We came here for what most people come here for, a better future. I was 14 years old, enrolled into 8th grade at John Muir Middle School. A few challenges arose. One, my English was not it, which made making friends hard because it was hard for me to start a conversation. This caused me to feel very left out. I don't know how this works. Oh, there you go. Where am I? But good thing I had my brother with me at times. How did I face these challenges? I faced them by practicing my English at home, with my family, my ELD teacher, Miss Octon, and by some turn of events, people began to talk to me without having to initiate a conversation. Of course, it's not that easy. My accent wasn't also helping, but I pushed past my insecurities and really pushed myself. It wasn't an instant fix. It took me some time to pronounce things right, understand American slang, and how people could be. Believe it or not, I was once very shy. I mean, if you compare me from now to back then, you could really tell the difference. I did not say hi to people because I was too scared of their judgment. During this transition, I need to be brave and faced a lot of fears. Making friends was really a big challenge for me because I did not know how to fit in. People's lifestyle here is way different in the Philippines. School itself, I did not know how classes work. Back home, we didn't have to move from class to class. It was the teachers who had to do all that. So basically, we stay in one class, same room, the whole day, same class, but just different teachers. And also, we had uniforms. That's me on the red circle, if you could see it. Anyways, back to my journey. Months later, I started getting used to how American school works, how the people are, and made friends that I'm still friends with up to this day. Thankfully, I wasn't bullied or people didn't make fun of my accent. Instead, they would help me and correct me in the nicest way ever, which I found really surprising because the kids here are cruel. Of course, it's not the same for all of us. Some of you may have been bullied. Some of you learned English in a different way, and maybe some of you are still learning English. My advice? If you have TV at home, which everyone should have, watch a lot of movies that are in English because this is going to help you a lot. Basically, surround yourself with English. There's also the app, where is it? Duolingo. Technology is your friend, so use it. Or just start talking to people. Yeah. I don't know how this works, I'm sorry. I know it's easier said than done, but talking to people is the most important if you really want to enhance your English. Plus, you get to make new friends, which is a win-win, right? Not only that, it'll also boost your confidence. Thank you. Thank you.
Plug this computer in before it shuts off. I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared. Or Tony talk, right? Tony talk. Cool. I'm gonna have everybody sign in at the end of the day.
Virgil, I gotta Hey, what's the little remote thingy? This right here? Yeah.
That look like a pager.
So I'm like, what the fuck is this? Alright, bet. The big ass green one? Yeah. That's Gucci. Okay, so I did my project on, well, not really a project, but you feel me? I did my TED Talk on, like, PTSD and, like, my peers dying. So, on May 28th, 2017, two of my friends drowned in water in Lake Timus, what was it called? Stanislaus County, in a reservoir. And at their funeral, I'm gonna just start from there. At their funeral, at the repast, right? The girl who was doing praise dancing, after her praise dance, the pastor was like, I have a sense, a feeling that somebody here is not gonna make it today. Somebody here is gonna die. And so, lo and behold, at their repast, it was this group of boys shooting dice, and well, one of them lost $5, and he was upset about it. And he felt he was cheated. So he got jumped, he came back, he shot up the whole repast. He ended up killing the girl who was doing the praise dancer. And that just goes and show you how easy it is for you to just lose your life, and how it's so fast. She lost her life over $5 and had nothing to do with it. Just yesterday, this girl named LK, LaKaylin, she used to go to the school actually. She died in a car crash right on Dutton. And that's kind of why I just changed my topic to talk about this stuff. I read in an article that 3,000 teens die each day. That's 1.2 million teens a year. And just imagine that somebody sitting next to you die tomorrow, or the person sitting behind you die next week, and how that resonates in your head. It causes PTSD. And a lot of people have it and they don't know they have it. Like, I didn't know I had it, and until like one of my favorite rappers, Meek Mill, talked about it in his songs. So I did a little research on it, and it turns out that a lot of people have it. Most of my peers have it as well. So I did a slideshow on some people that I know that I lost. Right here, Resonate. That's a girl who died at the died at the repast. She was shot over $5, like I said. Next, which you all have heard of, Nia Wilson. She was killed in a racist attack at MacArthur Park in North Oakland. The man came behind her, slit her throat, and then stabbed her sister as well. Her sister survived though, luckily. That is Antoine. He was killed at a bowling alley at one of my friend's birthday parties, my friend Monet. He was killed over some beef he had nothing to do with, nothing to deal with. He was not a part of it. He was shot dead in the street at an Alameda bowling alley. Next, there's David. Like I said, about the 2 kids who died in the reservoir, he was with them in the reservoir, and he was the only one who survived. That's why I said survivor right there. On one of the kids' birthday who died, Josiah, he was shot and killed in West Oakland. That's Derek. His nickname is Lupo. He died last year at the mini market on MacArthur and 98th. And that's just a little bit of the amount of people who die each year. And it usually happens around the summertime. So my slide ends here. And I just wanted to let you guys know that you can't take life for granted, because it can go any day. You can die tomorrow. You can die after you leave school. So you can die when you walk out that door. So don't take life for granted and keep pushing. And thank you.
All right. I'm Keyshawn Johnson. Today I'm going to be talking about how basketball changed my life and how basketball could change other people's lives. Not just basketball, but sports in general. So growing up in a neighborhood called the Lower Bottoms of West Oakland, California, there was a lot of adversity that I had to face, being the youngest of 6 siblings. So it was kind of easy on me, but I still had to figure things out on my own. So my mom and dad, they wasn't really too strict on me since I was the youngest. They gave me a lot of leeway, which that made it hard for me just to get around. So one day, November 6, 2011, my mom got a call saying that my brother had got shot. The guy said I had to be the bearer of bad news, and once that happened, everybody just got silent. So that shows how fast my life was able to change. Statistics say sports, young kids growing up through poverty, 45% of them that play sports end up successful in life. And I believe that I'm that 45%. Other people also say that it's a 1 in a million chance to go to the NBA or play basketball. But just that 1 in a million chance, you can be that 1 in a million just by working hard and persevering. So just practice can make perfect, and don't let anybody doubt you, which with me, I didn't let anybody doubt me. In doing sports, you gotta have your why. Most teenagers growing up, they don't have role models in their lives. The role models that they look up to is gangbangers and drug dealers and stuff like that. Which me, I had to be my own role model. So I was able to work hard and persevere. And basketball has saved my life because one day, me and my friends were supposed to be going to play basketball. But they decided to cut off and go to a party that one night when we were supposed to go to this workout with some older elderly people. And then that night I got a call saying that one of my friends had been shot. And me, just instantly, I prayed to God, thanking myself like I could have been that one that was with them and being shot. But just because I went to the gym, that's how basketball was able to save my life. So the moral of my story is to find extracurricular activities to keep yourself out of trouble, and you could go a long way in life. Thank you.
I apologize in advance. Ow, sorry. Uh, there's something special about going to a place you've dreamed of traveling to and then actually stepping foot there. And that exultant feeling that barely rivals any other. So when it may take years or decades, but when you're there and experiencing the culture and the views and whatnot, you begin to think the following: was it everything I ever dreamed of? So in my case, Japan. Is this a button? Yeah, okay. Those are just some pictures. When the world you craft in your mind is based off of movies or TV shows or anime or whatnot, you develop what you can call expectations of that place. So when I first went to Japan, it's common knowledge to not expect people with giant swords or neon hair colors and girls running with bread in their mouths, cliche. But it doesn't even have to be over exaggerated expectations. It can be small ones, like the skirts I thought the skirts were going to be a lot shorter on girls. Okay, well, I mean, come on. In anime, they always have the mini skirts on the girls, and they're not that short. I saw them. I saw the girls. I saw the girls, and their skirts were longer. Okay, they were down to their knees. It was that long. So it can be small things like that kind of surprise you, or like just differences in Japan in general, like the toilets there. The toilets there are magnificent. They have functions you would never have seen before. You know, if you want your privacy, you click a button and it plays music, so that no one has to hear you go. And also like small things like the driver's seat being on the right side instead of the left. I can direction. Okay. But it's small things like that where, oh, I have more slides. That's right. It's small things like expectations from anime and whatnot that kind of surprise you. So it's nice to travel and go out to places and catch the differences and see what more there is out there. And I think that's it. Oh no, there's more. That's the Pokemon Center. I went there, it was pretty cool. There was a giant Eevee. Okay, now I'm done. I'm sorry.
Hey guys. All right, so I kind of did the whole script last period. I was like, well, what's my topic? What should I do? I was like, procrastination. All right. So I have a bunch of stock photos, you know, just to do that. And I want to tell you why you shouldn't be procrastinating. Because you don't have a script to actually like talk about. You just have random stock photos. I don't even know what this is. Why is he driving sideways? Why is he like why is he giving the beer side? Like it's just weird, all right? But I do have like people for the stock photo to actually like, you know, encourage me to actually do this work. So I should say, why do we procrastinate? I don't know, but like my best guess is like we do a lot of work in school maybe. Yeah, but you know, more people. All right. I do need the encouragement. It is good. Yeah. This was like, I actually don't know what else to talk about. Like what did I have for breakfast? I had the green bar at I don't even know what it's called. The breakfast area thingy. The cafeteria, that. All right. Yeah. It's called Google Images. It's pretty good tool to just put random photos into a slide and start talking. So there's, let's talk. Does anyone have like a question on that, or? On the rest of my images, our grandma, she's just happy to do stuff. I could say the backstory of like why I chose the grandma. It's my mind just went to like grandmas and stock photos. That's a business person. She did something cool, right? She probably actually did a good presentation or something. That's another grandma. I thought that was a dude at first. There's a guy on speaker. Good Shutterstock photo. And that's my whole presentation. There's no more left. All right. Marion, you got this.
Okay. So, welcome to my TED Talk. Right. When was the last time you felt uneasy? Were you in public or in the comfort of your own home? As you grow older, as you grow older, you find that you're getting tangled in this web of anxiousness and tension, most commonly known as stress. Stress can take on many forms, and it varies from person to person. It affects all people of all ages, but it mostly affects teens and young adults. Think about it. Adolescence is that transitional period from childhood to adulthood. We start to experience new things as a teenager. At this time, you have tests to study for, personal lives to manage, and and we start to prepare for graduation to become adults. All while adults are telling us that if we're having trouble, seek help, seek counseling, talk to a teacher, and so on and so forth. However, you won't have your counselor there when you're an adult. Teens need to be taught how to manage and cope with stress so that they can better handle it in the future. According to the AACAP, stress and nervousness triggers the fight or flight response.
Your heart rate increases, you start sweating. When you get the feeling that something's wrong, your body is preparing you to get away from that situation as fast as possible. The problem is, you most likely can't run away from whatever's stressing you out. Stress comes in two forms. There's short-term stress, which is temporary, and there's long-term stress. This is when stress becomes a part of your daily routine and it's considered normal. The problem is that all of the stress builds up and it can take a physical and emotional toll on you. I, like many others, still deal with this kind of stress, though that's more of the weight that I place on myself. I'm the biggest pushover you can ever see, and I find it really hard to say no to people, mostly because I don't want to seem rude. This is when assertiveness comes in handy. Though it all depends on how you respond. You're either passive aggressive or passive aggressive. It can vary based on the people that you surround yourself with. But what if you don't like confrontation and aren't a good communicator? That surrounds around conflict resolution, which I won't be going into too much detail about, but I will say that when you need to assert yourself, take a step back, assess yourself, assess the situation, think about what you want to say, exercise and establish the rights that you have as a person, and establish boundaries. If they will not respect your boundaries, try to recognize it and walk away. No one's forcing you to be in whatever relationship that's currently being available or any type of interaction, per se. One of my teachers saw that I needed help and recommended me the book Fighting Invisible Tigers, a stress management guide for teens by Earl Hip. This book brought up an analogy that sums up stress management pretty well. Let's say that you have a rubber band. Imagine that this rubber band represents an issue or responsibility that you have to deal with, and it's wrapped around your head. Eventually, you get another rubber band, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another. And then all that pressure that builds up in the center of your head is your stress. But because you have so many rubber bands, it's difficult to tell which one of those rubber bands is causing you stress. You're probably wondering how to deal with all these rubber bands, and one thing's for certain. Whatever you're stressed out about, you shouldn't avoid it. You're just going to end up digging a deeper hole for yourself. There's one solution when handling stress, and that's to simply relax. However, there's a key difference between relaxing and coping. When you're coping, you're either distracting yourself or focusing on something, like when you're reading a book, watching... Do not avoid stress. Sorry. When you're coping, you're either distracting yourself or focusing on something, like when you're reading a book, watching a show, or even sleeping. Some will resort to using drugs and alcohol to numb their stress, but when you relax, when you're truly relaxed, you're in a controlled and calm and focused state. Meditating and concentrating on breathing are effective methods to relax your brain. If you want to live life stress-free, that's never going to happen. But you can learn how to cope with stress effectively. You have to focus on taking care of yourself and be sure not to bring yourself down even further. Be good to yourself and treat yourself every once in a while. Remember to make time to relax and do things that you want to do. The main thing that I hope that you take away from this is though stress is inevitable, it is manageable. Thank you.
Hello. I'm sorry if I have a heart attack on stage. So my topic is racism in the film industry, and have you ever watched an older movie and thought to yourself, where are all the people of color? Or have you ever watched an award show and thought to yourself, why don't the people of color win anything? Well, you may have not thought that recently because there's been a huge increase in diversity in the film industry as of recent. For example, this year's Oscars. Black Panther won for Best Original Score, Green Book won for Best Picture, Rami Malek won for Best Actor, Mahershala Ali won for Best Supporting Actor, and Alfonso Cuarón for Best Director, and the list goes on for last year as well. But if you were to go back to the early 20th century, it wasn't really like that. Blackface was very popular back then, and it was basically, people would pay money to go see white people, sing and dance on stage while doing blackface. And this sort of entertainment was normal back then. Upon my research, I was watching some blackface performances, some of them being Jim Crow, Judy Garland, and Shirley Temple. And those are pretty gross to look at, to say the least, because if someone as famous as Judy Garland were to do something like that today, their career would be over. In 2016, it was the second year in a row where all 20 actors in the supporting and leading role were white. This sparked the Oscars So White hashtag and controversy. There's been so many amazing racially diverse movies in the film industry that have been looked over by the Academy. Blackface wasn't the only issue in the film industry. It was also redface. Redface isn't as talked about as blackface. Why? I don't know. It's still people portraying another race, though there was some justice served in the Oscars in 1973. Marlon Brando won for Best Actor in The Godfather, but rejected the award due to the fact that there was no American Indian actors in Hollywood. Instead, Sacheen Littlefeather gave an amazing speech about how American Indians were treated poorly in Hollywood and the racially based aggression she experienced. The proof is in the pudding. You can go back to the most iconic movies in history. For example, Breakfast at Tiffany's. That movie is loved all across America, but there are some things in the movie that no one talks about. For example, the Japanese man. Mickey Rooney is the man that played Mr. Yuniyoshi in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He opened the floodgates to the controversies in the never-ending whitewashing in Hollywood. And please refer to that picture of Mickey Rooney and then refer to the picture of the character that he played in Breakfast at Tiffany's. If you were to ask me, that man is not Japanese. The Academy still have a lot of work to do regarding diversity in Hollywood, but I hope in my lifetime there won't be nearly as much racism as there was in the 20th century. Thank you. Okay. Okay. It was a normal afternoon in PE class, and my friend Haiti starts going off about the love of her life, Adam Conover from the show Adam Ruins Everything. For weeks, she tried convincing me to watch the show until I finally broke. I actually really liked it. I knew I would since we share similar taste in shows. On March 29th, Haiti and I went to go see Adam Conover live. Now, Haiti was so excited, and I was too. However, I had no idea he was going to ruin my life. The show was amazing. Now, Adam Conover is a comedian, but he also informs you, so he's an informative comedian. The whole show was centered around mind parasites and how companies manipulate. Oh, and an example used for this was advertising and how companies manipulate you through their ads. Now, this is something that isn't new to me. I know that companies target their ads specifically to have people buy their products. However, Adam really opened my eyes to just how far they really go. During the show, he talked about how companies have taken things that have been around for thousands of years and have turned them into part of their branding. For example, when you hear a bell, you think of Taco Bell. You don't think of, oh, it's time to go to church or it's 2 o'clock. Companies do this specifically so that you will always associate their product or their brand with that specific sound. They do the same thing with shapes. During the show, Adam showed us a green square and asked the audience to yell out the first thing they thought about. And everyone in the room, including me, yelled H&R Block. Without even thinking too hard on it, I said it. That's when I realized just how much advertising really influences us. This is pretty crazy to think about, especially since on average we see 4,000 ads a day, according to digital marketing experts. And most of these ads we're not even aware of them, which is a big problem because the less you pay attention to an ad, the more effective it really is. According to a study done by Robert George Heath, Associate Professor of Advertising Theory at the University of Bath, the majority of advertisements' influence is subconscious. Emotive content requires no attention at all in order to be effectively processed. You would think that because you're not paying attention to an ad, it wouldn't be affecting you. But on the contrary, those are the ads that affect you the most. So if there's anything I took away from all of this is that you have to look those ads straight in the face and tell them you can't control me. Because unfortunately, we're in a world where we see ads everywhere we go. So the next time you're walking down the street and see an ad, I encourage you to confront it instead of ignoring it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my presentation is about like video games and how they kind of affected my life. I can't see anything, but okay. As a kid, I kind of always heard the sayings like video games will make you fat and dumb, and like you're gonna grow up and live in your mom's basement. And I kind of always brush it off and told them that they were wrong, but as I've grown older, I've kind of seen it like play into action a little bit, not gonna lie. I always use video games kind of as a substitute for TV. I never really liked watching TV. I thought it was boring.
in freshman and sophomore year, I started really playing video games like a lot, like with Gabe. And I have really great memories of it. I mean, I played probably about 5 hours a day after school. And it started getting to the point where it was really affecting me academically. I had a 2.4 GPA in my sophomore year of high school. And actually got into a game called Rust, which completely changed my life. And I have video games to thank for it all. But with that, it also came with some really bad times. Voice crack. But I would say around the beginning of my junior year, Rust played a huge role in my life. It actually motivated me to do better in school because my parents told me that I couldn't play that game if I didn't perform well in school. So I actually took 4 AP classes my junior year. And I started playing this game called Rust. And it's basically a survival game where you just run around with a gun and kill people. And I would play just day in and day out, and I got really good at it, like unhealthily good. I joined the #1 clan in the entire United States, and I played, and I actually made some money. So I hit the leaderboards. I had the highest headshot rate in the country, which means that it was 67%, which is kind of stupid high. And then I had a 56.4 KDR, which if you don't know what that means, that basically means that when I'm running around, I'll kill 56 people before I die. And as you can imagine, and as it sounds to me, I was a completely sweaty gamer back then, but it was all that mattered to me. And so, it meant everything. I look back at it and I think it's completely like sad, and I was such a loner, but it really meant everything to me back then, and I wouldn't have given it up for anything. But with that, it really affected me socially. I wouldn't say that I was socially awkward, but in class I had this huge tendency, and it still sticks with me a little bit today. I don't like to think about it too much, but I would just spaz out in class really. I would always try to be the class clown. And that was because when I got home from school, I would play video games all day and talk to no one, like, other than my clanmates who I would never see. I would actually go to the library every day at lunch in my junior year, and I actually never ate lunch with my friends on my junior year, it's pretty sad, but it's true. I went there so often that the librarian actually memorized my ID number. And on one of the first days of my senior year, I went to the library to go print out a gov paper. It was our summer work was due. And the librarian had remembered my student ID number from the year before because she had punched it in so many times. And it was at that point that I kind of just dropped video games as a whole, because it really did hurt my social life, and I can say it was motivating me to do well in school, but just for all the wrong reasons. Like, it was just hung over my head as, something that I had to do. So, but luckily, I met some really cool friends in senior year. These are my boys, and these are my volleyball guys. And I mean, there's absolutely, I can say confidently that I wouldn't give anything up for them, including video games. So these are some more. There's Alondra. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what my TED Talk's about. I think that video games are a really good thing for people in moderation, but just as everything, if you get addicted to them, they really take over your life, and the old people are right. Video games are pretty much poison for the wrong people.
Josh, you're good. You're good, Josh.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna stay here. These are some things I've learned from Mr. Gordon's class. Few things. No. Pollution is one of the biggest challenges the world faces today, and it is one we need to overcome soon for the good of the present as well as for the good of the future. We only have 12 years to fix this problem before the damage is irreversible. Since 1988, just 100 companies are responsible for over 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It's true that countries around the world are adopting new laws and implementing new action plans to help save the earth. However, corporations will continuously find ways around this until we, as individual consumers, take a stand. If fossil fuels continue to be extracted at the same rate for the next 26 years as they are now, the global average temperature is expected to rise by 4 degrees Celsius. This will cause substantial species extinctions as well as global food scarcity, among other catastrophic problems. Not only are companies contributing greatly to the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, but they are also contributing to the massive plastic pollution in the ocean as well as on land. Even though individuals are cutting back on their plastic waste through reusable bottles, straws, and bags, and more, we must take additional actions to change this harmful system. We can change this system by changing the way products are made and disposed of and forcing companies to provide more sustainable options. This is only the beginning of ways we can change our future. Although corporations have played a huge part in the exponential growth of greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere, they also have the power to play a huge part in solving this problem. In order to face companies to take a look at the way they are affecting the planet, we must cut the problem off at the source. We as a collective global society need to bring attention to the barrier between short-term profitability and the urgent need to reduce emissions. According to the principles of supply and demand, companies will not stop producing goods in harmful ways until customers stop buying their goods. So in order to begin to solve this problem, we must stop demanding products whose production is harmful to our planet. Corporations and individuals need to work as a single cohesive unit in the battle against pollution if we hope to save our planet.
All right, so I read this once last night, so let's see if I can pull this off. So, mental illness in the media. I don't have slides either. I totally forgot about that. Mental illness as portrayed in media. It can be harmful. And most of the time, when we can think of shows or movies that talk about it, it's always in the negative. Movies like Psycho, shows like 13 Reasons Why, Split, anything and anywhere where they use the word sociopath. All of these tropes and ideas are misinformed. In movies like Split and Psycho, we see patients exhibiting several alter egos that they switch between to commit crimes, often killing people and having no memory of it once they switch. But what they don't talk about is the fact that that is so incredibly rare and almost never heard of that there is factually no basis for that at all. In 13 Reasons Why, we see a horribly skewed and oddly romanticized representation of depression and suicide in just the way that the characters, idealize I forget the girl's name who died, after her death, and she's almost like a martyr. A little bit effed up, gotta say. But now, for sociopaths, in September of 2018, a YouTuber by the name of Shane Dawson, yes, you can hate me later, made a 8-part docuseries on another YouTuber, Jake Paul, on whether or not he was a sociopath. And he carried along with him this little therapist lady, and she was supposed to be telling him all the ins and outs of oh yes, he is a sociopath, blah, 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 blah. Now that woman, upon research, was actually just a marriage counselor. So, she didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And she obviously didn't know because any trained medical professional would never use the word sociopath because the media has taken it so far out of context that medical professionals can no longer use it in practice. Instead, the term antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, has been coined to address these people. And when we say the word sociopath, we're actually addressing something that doesn't even exist. This heartless monster that has no empathy for anyone else and is prone to crime or harming other people. That's not real. Antisocial personality disorder is just someone who has undergone such severe trauma at an early age that they have difficulty forming the same level of connections with other people than a normal person would. It's not that they don't have feelings. In fact, they do very much feel the same things that we do, just to a dampened degree. And honestly, that's very sad to me. I sympathize with these people immensely. And to fear them is just wrong. And sure, throughout history, there have been criminals and people who have hurt others that have had these symptoms, but there have been way more that have done nothing of the sort. So next time we're going out and we're trying to portray these very multifaceted and complex mental illnesses, let's do our research. I'm done now. No. Don't put it in here, no. Okay, I'm done. I don't know, I'm just gonna put this on the table.
Third try. Is it okay if I stay here? Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm like panicking right now. All right, okay. Sunday, April 7th, 2019. It was late at night and I was video chatting Zach, simultaneously doing work together. I asked him a very important question that would impact my educational work ethics the next morning. Stats or English? Stats. I'd stay up late trying to decipher a unit I haven't paid attention to or even touched due to it being in the musical. This results with long hours trying to complete assignments and might conclude to skipping 0 period the next morning. English. I'd spend hours and hours trying to pick a topic for my TED Talk and then contemplate on how to start my introduction. Knowing that I was very indecisive, Zach told me to do stats. But did I? No, I didn't. I did both. I spent hours on completing 90% of my stats homework and reading articles on building a half-assed introduction for my TED Talk on the topic of indecisiveness. Monday, April 8th, 2019. As I approached second period, being the dreadful statistics class, I once complained about what I should do for my TED Talk. And as I was saying this, then came a great angelic voice, a great suggestion from the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl named Siobhan. We love Siobhan. Look at her. She's beautiful. Right? Right? Yes, she's beautiful. All right. And you know what she said to me? Why don't you start your TED Talk with a story about last night leading to this very moment? And you know what I did? Exactly that. You see, this TED Talk wasn't about turning in a stats assignment or a half-assed written TED Talk. It was more about deciphering why I've always had this habit when it came to decision making. I remember the moment I was
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Yes. I remember the moment I was assigned to write a TED Talk. And I remember I spent that time stressing to Miss Sinnott, sorry, Miss Sinnott, about how I couldn't find a topic I'd see myself talking for 3 minutes straight. So what exactly does indecisiveness have to do with anything? Well, it affects our daily lives, whether you decide on simple tasks or choosing between important life or death situations. Decision making is a way of survival. With this being said, you are usually given 2 or more options when given a situation. The decision we finalize on is usually based to be the most beneficial. The idea of this is usually revolved around our environment, how we grow up, and our individual neurological connections. These connections are what the universe draws us towards, what they pull us towards. They attract us because they happen, and they just happen, you know? So decision making is natural for all of us. We don't really need to think about most of the situations we're in. But whenever you do need to make a decision and you can't, here are some tips that you need to follow. Number 1, be independent. You need to learn to make the decision yourself. It's just part of the process of what works and what doesn't. Number 2, don't overthink it. Like I've said, even if you don't try, the universe will eventually tell you. Or maybe you need to put your brain on pause and give it a breather. And lastly, ask for help. Don't be afraid to find a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl named Siobhan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alessandra Hernandez, and here are a few things you should know about me. I'm a Leo, I'm a dog person, and a bisexual. Being part of the LGBT community while also simultaneously being Latina and coming from a very Catholic family is extremely difficult. Coming to terms with my sexuality, I freaked out, you know, like what would my tios and tias think? What would my abuelita think? I was terrified. I was realizing that I had to either come out or figure out a way to just kind of stay in the closet for the rest of my life, move away, and just be cool with it was really hard. So yeah, I had always had a really cool liberal family, so I don't really know why I freaked out so much. Like, it took me a while. Like, I realized I was bi at 13, but by 15 I was like, holy crap, why the hell was I freaking out? My mom and dad had always stressed, mija, no matter what you do, we'll always love you. So I came to terms with it, and I was like, hey, why do I have to come out, you know? Why can't it just be like a straight relationship? If I bring home a girl, I bring home a girl, and if I don't, I don't. So that's how I came with it. Eventually, I kind of screwed up. I had made one too many bi jokes to my dad, and he was like, hey, wait, mija, what the hell? Because I was like, who has 2 legs and likes girls? And me. So, yeah, my dad was like, oh, mija, you like girls, huh? Do you have a girlfriend? Sadly, I don't, still don't, but it's fine. And he was cool with it, and so was everybody else in my family. And I was really grateful for that, because I know coming out, especially to, like I've said, extremely Catholic family that's Latino, is very terrifying, you know? And I was just really grateful, and I was glad to have such a supportive family, you know? And everybody still loves me, and they're like, oh, you're the gay cousin now. And so I'm yeah, but I was just really grateful, and I was really happy to have such an easy coming out story, and yeah, that's it.
Nicole, please go now. Let's get the show on the road.
Okay. Wait, is this? Yeah, okay. So basically, my TED Talk is about how I improved my art and what got me into art in the first place. So one day, me and my grandparents, we went to visit our relatives, and they were camping at Chivbo. One of my cousins, when I got there, we were just like chilling, and she was like drawing something on a piece of paper. Now, I forgot to mention I was in 4th grade, so I was like not into art, but then she was like drawing something. It was really cool, and I asked her if she could draw it like help me draw it, or like teach me how to draw it. And so she showed me, and I was like, wow, that's really cool actually. It was just an anime eye, so it was like kind of basic, but I was really into it. So on the car ride home, I was like, you know, I'm probably gonna try at least to get better at art. So I did. I kept drawing, it kept being crappy. I was like, wow, I'm not going anywhere. This is not working at all. And I even stopped drawing for like a year because I just didn't see any improvement whatsoever. I came back to it, and this time I decided to, I guess, take my time and actually learn how to draw certain things. And it turns out that I started to improve, and it made me want to keep going and going. There were times, of course, where, you know, it was kind of crappy, and I was like, oh, I want to give up, but I didn't. And I personally think that when it comes to getting better at art or anything you're doing, you need patience, you need to practice, like just practice. I practiced a lot, and I'm still practicing. I'm nowhere near that good, but I know I'm getting there. And when it comes to art, references are also a really good thing to use. You know, references for body, anatomy, animals, anything, you know. I feel like anybody can be better at what they do if they just practice and take the time to actually get better at it. And that's what I did.
Okay, so my TED Talk is about glorification of mental illness on social media. So today we live in an era that is highly influenced by several forms of media, but mostly by the internet. We use the internet to keep in touch with family and friends, share memories, our thoughts, and spread news, and also buy sketchy things on sketchy websites. But we also live in an era where the newer generations are beginning to start conversations that once was never given the chance to be heard. Like everything, this has its ups and downs. Our generation has begun to bring up the conversation that is mental illness. In the US alone, 46.4% of adults will experience mental illness in their lifetime, and half of all mental illnesses begin by the age of 14, and 3/4 by age 24. These young people will most likely speak out about their mental illness on social media platforms, but often in jokes, in playful ways. These jokes can be recognized as coping mechanisms for their illnesses, but others, sometimes make these jokes but never actually experienced having the mental illnesses. And some people like to kind of categorize them as personality traits rather than actual illnesses. And so, okay. So sometimes minor inconveniences can have people labeling themselves as depressed rather than saying that they're sad. But they're not. The words depressed and depression have been used so often that they have begun to lose their meaning. Depression and other illnesses are not a bandwagon, and they are severe illnesses sometimes that actually have an effect on people's daily lives. They are not personality traits either. It's not cool or mysterious to have these things, and if you want to get diagnosed, then go to a professional. The self-diagnosis of these mental illnesses do not make you look cool, they make you look like a clown. Thank you.
How'd you get the fuck out? Oh, that's not what I want. Wait, what? I pressed the big green button, right? Alright, for sure. Alright. So, I'm talking about the stigmas against medical cannabis throughout history and how it has hurt the patients and people that are in pain. So I want to ask the question, how many of you have heard in your lifetime that marijuana or cannabis is like a negative thing in your life or a bad thing to try in general? And I'm not really talking about recreational, but since 1900s, cannabis has been viewed as a harmful and poisonous thing to society, whether it be it causes laziness or back in the early 1900s, they stated that it induced mental illness. But overall, it has caused pain, people that are in pain, a lot more pain. The beginning of cannabis has been traced back throughout history. It first presented itself in Asia and India in the early 500 BCs, and this was for medical purposes, actually. And then in the 1600s, the U.S. colonies actually required colonists to grow hemp for ropes and other materials because it was so cheap and cost effective that it was just an overall good material to use. And later in the 1800s, Sir William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, which was an Irish doctor, invented the first medical cannabis, and it was for actually for stomach aches and stomach illnesses when you weren't feeling good. The first recreational cannabis blew up in 800 BC in the Middle East because the Quran actually forbid the use of alcohol and other drugs, so people would turn to the more natural form of it and use cannabis. So it actually was used for religious purposes as well. Soon, cannabis started to be criminalized in the U.S. This was after the Mexican Revolution, when a lot of Mexican immigrants came over to the U.S. They introduced they introduced recreational marijuana, and a lot of people were on board. And it was going good for a long time until around 1931, when after the Great Depression, a lot of unemployment. White people turned to racism and said that cannabis was the Mexicans' fault or the Latinos' fault for bringing it because of unemployment, which was just untrue. By 1931, 29 states had outlawed it, and then in 1937, the first federal tax came about on it. In 1937, a day after the act was enacted, an old man, he was actually 57, so not that old, but he was selling marijuana for a medical purchase because one of his friend's daughter had a stomach ache, and he was punished to 4 years of hard labor for selling a small amount of cannabis. And then Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substance Act in 1970, which put marijuana in the same category as heroin, LSD, and ecstasy, which basically deterred people from using it. Compared to other drugs, there's 88,000 alcohol-related overdoses a year, compared to 14,000 related heroin overdoses, and there is almost zero cannabis-related overdoses. It's only zero because statistically you shouldn't put zero. And a lot of the other statistics show that it's really not as bad as some of the things that we sell at baseball games, we sell on airplanes, So this is a young gentleman before he drinks alcohol. This is him after he drinks alcohol. This is a before and after of a woman using heroin. Yes, that is heroin. That's terrible. That is a picture of a person before they spoke marijuana or ingest it. That is picture after. A short health benefits of it. A lot of different conditions actually can be helped with medical cannabis. Hold on, sorry. Some of these diseases include MS, which is what Ms. Sennett has. HIV, AIDS, cancer, and epilepsy can also be cured. When it comes to epilepsy, this young girl, Charlotte Figge on the right, she had almost 400 huge seizures a week, which every time she would have a seizure, it would be damaging her brain and she would get more and more incoherent. And nothing was working to fix this. She was only 5 years old, and she was going to die. Doctors said that she had less than a year. Her parents tried CBD oil, which has no psychoactive effects, and this was to see if it would work. And it actually did. It reduced Charlotte's seizures to 4 a month. This is using a small amount of cannabis, and it saved her life. Another video that I have is this one of a gentleman.
So the medications Larry takes for his Parkinson's
he has
are
Parkinson's
thousands
disease,
of
and
dollars. Every time
his
I
wife
refill a
right now is saying that
it's
per
about
per bottle of prescription pills for
And
his
the deep
Parkinson's
brain
is
stimulation
$3,000.
was
For
about
20
$250,000.
pills, it's $3,000.
And then every time
And they
his
need, and
batteries
sometimes
run
he goes
down
through
and
20
needs to be
pills in a
replaced,
day.
it's probably around
This is because it's so
$80,000.
severe.
Larry's at the point where
Parkinson's.
he's having so much trouble
His
walking
doctor
around.
eventually
He takes
prescribed
20 pills a
him
day, and
cannabis, which is what he is putting on his mouth right now. It's CBD oil, so again, no psychoactive effects, so he's not becoming like a pothead or whatever. He's in severe pain. He can't talk because he's having so many seizures, or like mild muscle spasms,
We know
and
from
it's
animal
actually really
experiments
severe.
that the endogenous cannabinoid system is, from animal experiments, we also know
2 minutes later, we can see that
certain branches
Mr.
of the endocannabinoid system is helpful in relieving symptoms.
His last name. His name's
of
Larry.
Parkinson's.
He's fully relaxed, and he can
down.
now, 3 or 4 minutes later, he can actually talk now. He can stand. He's relaxed. His muscles have relaxed, and this is with 2 drops of CBD oil. So again, $10, and that's what you get instead of $3,000.
It works most of the time.
Yeah. Anyway. And basically, what I want to say is, I know in California it's not a big deal like we think it's, like a lot of people can obtain access to it, but in a lot of other states, like in Illinois, they're implementing a 4-year program where only a few number of people can get access to it. In a lot of other states, it's been, a really hard process for people to obtain this because of the criminalization and the racist, like stigmas against it. So this has hurt the patient, basically boiling it down because doctors prescribe painkillers instead of cannabis, and it is said that 1 in 10 seniors are addicted to painkillers, and the painkiller percentage in America, usage or addiction in America is roughly 12%, which is pretty high. Okay, that's not working. Anyway, conclusion. Cannabis can be a life-changing medication for millions of people around the world. With a new generation of people in politics and with new views in science, I hope that we can eliminate these stigmas and see cannabis in formal medicine. Thank you.